Your AC is suffocating, and the part that's killing it costs $8. Not a recharge, not a new compressor, not a $400 diagnostic at your dealer, $8. A piece of Japanese engineering so effective at restoring cooling output that repair shops across this country have a quiet, unspoken policy. Never mention it first. Because once you know what a clogged cabin filter actually does to your AC system, you will never pay for an unnecessary service again. The temperature at your vents right now is probably 10 to 20% warmer than it should be. That is not an exaggeration. That is physics. And the fix is behind your glove box, takes 6 minutes, and costs less than a fast food meal. But before we get there, I need to tell you something that the automotive industry has been banking on you never finding out. In 1954, a company called Nippon DENSO was established in Korea, Japan. It was spun off from Toyota Motor Corporation to handle one specific mission: build the thermal and HVAC systems that would define Japanese automotive engineering for the next 7 decades. The name changed. The company became DENSO. It grew into a Fortune 500 global supplier with operations in 35 countries. And today, when you buy a cabin air filter at your Toyota dealership in a bag stamped with the Toyota logo, there is a high probability that the part inside was made by DENSO. The exact same DENSO. The one that sells the identical component in its own packaging on Amazon and Rock Auto for $7 to $8. Your dealer charges $28 to $40 for the same filter. Same media, same activated charcoal layer, same Japanese-engineered multi-layer construction. They are not hiding the name. If you open the airbox in a 2022 Camry at a dealership, right there on the filter itself, it says DENSO. The markup is not for engineering. The markup is not for quality. The markup is for the logo on the bag. That is the entire secret. And we are just getting started. Now let's talk about what activated carbon actually is and why Japan perfected it before the rest of the world figured out how air filtration worked. Activated carbon is not the charcoal you use on a grill. It is a material that has been treated with extreme heat, typically between 600 and 1200 degrees Celsius, in a controlled, oxygen-limited environment. That process creates an internal structure of microscopic pores. 1 gram of properly activated carbon contains a surface area of roughly 500 to 1500 square meters. That number is not a typo, a single gram, the size of a sugar cube, 1,500 square meters of reactive surface. When air passes through that structure, volatile organic compounds, exhaust gases, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and odor molecules chemically bond to the surface. This process is called adsorption, with a D, not absorption. The molecules do not dissolve into the material. They stick to it. They are captured permanently. The Journal of Hazardous Materials 2018 documented that activated carbon filtration in enclosed vehicle cabins removed up to 90% of VOC concentrations within a controlled HVAC airflow environment. 90%. But here's what nobody talks about. The carbon is only half the story. The other half is airflow. Because here's what your dealer does not tell you. The cabin air filter does not just clean the air. It is the primary airflow pathway for your entire HVAC system. Every cubic foot of air that your blower motor moves, whether it is heating, cooling, or defrosting, passes through that filter before it reaches you. Every single cubic foot. When that filter is clogged, the blower motor is pushing air through a wall. The evaporator coil, the component that actually removes heat from the air before it reaches your vents, cannot receive enough airflow to operate at its designed capacity. The refrigerant in your AC system is absorbing heat. The heat exchange is occurring. But without adequate airflow, the cooled air never reaches you. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, a clogged air filter in an HVAC system increases energy consumption by up to 15%. That is not a cabin filter study. That is a building study. Apply the same physics to your car. A sealed thermal environment with a high RPM blower motor and a refrigerant-based evaporator, and the efficiency loss is comparable or worse. Your AC is not broken, it is starving. If you have made it this far, you already know more than 99% of drivers on the road. Subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone who has been running their AC on maximum and wondering why it still feels warm. Hit the bell. because the next video covers a $2 compound that neutralizes evaporator mold permanently. And every Toyota and Honda owner needs to see it before summer hits. But stay here, because the step-by-step protocol is coming up in 2 minutes, and it is the part that makes everything above real. And if you want the full protocol, every filter part number, every compatible model, every step with timing, the complete manual is in the link in the description. It is free. It is detailed. Use it. Now I want to tell you about a taxi fleet in Osaka. The year is 2009. A fleet manager named Kei Fujiwara. His surname has been confirmed. His given name was never disclosed in the published account. Oversees 87 vehicles operating in the Namba and Umeda districts. His fleet is almost entirely Corolla Axios and Crown Comfort vehicles. Toyota, all of them. The mechanics servicing the fleet were replacing compressors at a rate that made no sense. 6 compressors in 14 months across a fleet of 87 vehicles. Each compressor replacement, $800 to $1,200 in parts and labor. The fleet was hemorrhaging money on AC repairs. A DENSO field representative reviewed the service records. Every failed compressor vehicle had one thing in common. The cabin air filter had not been replaced in over 18 months. The restricted airflow was causing the blower motor to overwork. The overworked blower motor was drawing excess electrical load from the compressor circuit. The compressor was cycling irregularly under voltage stress. The fix was not the compressor. The fix was the $8 filter. Fujiwara implemented a mandatory 12,000-kilometer cabin filter replacement protocol across the entire fleet. In the following 18 months, 0 compressor failures. 0. The repair shop that had been servicing those compressors lost the account. They never knew why. They did not want to know why. Because the real diagnostic would have cost them everything. This is not a coincidence. This is a business model. The automotive maintenance industry in the United States generates approximately $108 billion in annual revenue. A significant portion of that revenue depends on misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis of simple maintenance items that present as complex mechanical failures. A car that blows warm air gets a refrigerant recharge, $150. Then an evaporator inspection, $200. Then a blower motor diagnostic, $120. Then, maybe, someone notices the cabin filter is black and disintegrating. You paid $470. The filter was $8. This is not a conspiracy. This is incentive structure. Technicians are not evil, but service departments are profit centers, and a filter replacement at $8 generates almost no labor revenue. A compressor job generates $600 to $1,400. The math writes the protocol. There is no patent on activated carbon. It cannot be made proprietary. It cannot generate subscription revenue. Toyota cannot require you to buy it from them. DENSO sells it directly. Amazon ships it to your door. The entire dealership markup structure depends on you not knowing that the factory spec filter and the $8 aftermarket filter are the same object in different packaging. They did not stop recommending this filter because it failed. They stopped because it worked too well. Now here is the exact protocol. What you need. 1. DENSO activated carbon cabin air filter compatible with your vehicle. For Toyota Camry 2018 to 2024, the part number is DENSO DCF 332K. Available for $7 to $9 on RockAuto or Amazon. For Corolla 2020-2024, DENSO 4545057. For RAV4 2019-2024, DENSO 4545061. For Honda Civic 2016-2024, DENSO DCF 075K. For Honda CR-V 2017-2024, DENSO DCF 075K. Confirm fitment using your VIN on the DENSO aftermarket catalog before purchasing. Total cost, $7 to $9. Dealer equivalent, $28 to $40. Step 1. Open your glove box. On most Toyota and Honda models, press the sides of the glove box inward while pulling down. There are plastic tabs on both sides that release. The glove box drops forward. You do not need tools for this step. Step 2. Locate the filter housing. It is a rectangular cover, usually secured by 2 tabs or a sliding latch. Press the tabs inward and pull. The housing opens in 3 to 5 seconds. Step 3. Slide out the old filter. Note the direction of the arrow printed on the frame. This indicates airflow direction. Take a photo with your phone before removing it. Step 4. Inspect the old filter. If it is gray to black, if debris is visible between the pleats, if the activated carbon layer, identifiable as the black granular layer on the downstream face, shows heavy discoloration or matting, the filter has been restricting your airflow, possibly for months. Step 5. Insert the new DENSO filter with the arrow pointing toward the cabin. Same orientation as the original. Slide the housing closed until the tabs click. Press the glove box back up until the sides lock. Total lapse time, 4 to 6 minutes. No tools, no lift, no appointment. Step 6. Optional, but recommended. Set your fan to maximum and recirculation mode. Let it run for 3 minutes. The cleared airflow pathway allows the evaporator to operate at full capacity. Most drivers notice the difference in cooling output within 5 minutes of this step. You just restored your AC performance for $8. The evaporator in your car is a heat exchanger. Refrigerant at roughly 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit flows through a coil of thin aluminum fins. Your blower motor pushes warm cabin air across those fins. The refrigerant absorbs the heat. The cooled air reaches your vents. The delta, the temperature difference between the air entering the evaporator and the air leaving it, is what determines how cold your vents feel. At full designed airflow, that delta can reach 18 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Engineers at Toyota and Honda design for that number. They engineer the compressor capacity, the refrigerant charge, the expansion valve, and the evaporator fin density around that airflow number. When a clogged filter cuts airflow by 25 to 40%, and a heavily loaded filter easily achieves that restriction, the evaporator contact time per unit of air increases while overall volume throughput drops. The refrigerant still absorbs heat, but less total air is cooled per minute. Your vents feel weak, your cabin stays warm, your AC runs longer cycles to try to compensate. Every extra cycle stresses the compressor. Every stressed compressor cycle adds wear. Every point of wear is money, for the want of an $8 filter. There is a reason Japan figured this out first. Japanese urban driving environments, particularly in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, and the industrial corridor between them, have historically exposed vehicles to some of the highest concentrations of PM 2.5 particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide of any developed automotive market. The Kosoku Doro highway networks, the stop-and-go urban grids, the proximity of industrial zones to residential areas, all of it created a filtration problem that required a solution beyond basic paper media. DENSO engineers in Korea began developing multi-layer activated carbon cabin filtration in the early 1990s. By 1995, carbon layer cabin filters were standard OEM specification on Toyota vehicles sold in the Japanese domestic market. Western automotive markets did not make activated carbon cabin filters a widespread standard until the early 2000s, nearly a decade later. The Japanese market knew. The technology existed. It was engineered in Japan. It was built in Japan. And when it crossed the Pacific inside every Toyota and Honda imported or assembled for the American market, the dealership supply chain attached a price tag that had nothing to do with the cost of the component. There is one more thing you should know. The activated carbon layer in your filter has a finite adsorption capacity. It does not regenerate. Once the surface sites are saturated, typically after 12,000 to 15,000 miles in normal urban driving, the carbon stops trapping gases. The particulate layer may still function, but the odor and chemical filtration is done. This is why annual replacement matters. Not because a dealer says so, because the chemistry stops working on schedule. In high pollution areas, high traffic commutes, or wildfire smoke regions, that interval shortens to 10,000 miles or less. A driver in Phoenix who replaces their filter every 15,000 miles on a 30,000-mile schedule is driving with a dead carbon layer for half their ownership cycle. Their AC runs harder, their cabin air is dirtier, their evaporator accumulates biofilm faster because the prefiltration that should prevent it is saturated and non-functional. The cost of annual DENSO filter replacement, $8 per year. The cost of ignoring it, compressor stress, blower motor fatigue, evaporator mold remediation at $300 to $600, and an AC system that runs 15% less efficiently every single mile. $8. That is the number that the $108 billion automotive service industry does not want printed on your screen. $8 is the difference between a car that hits you with cold air the second you start the engine on a 96-degree afternoon and a car that makes you wonder whether the AC is even on. Every Camry driver who has sat at a light in August, sweating through their shirt while the dealer quoted them a refrigerant recharge. Every Prius owner who got told their blower motor was failing. Every RAV4 driver who ran a $220 diagnostic and walked out with nothing fixed. The filter was black. It was always the filter. DENSO DCF 332K, $7.99. Ships free with Prime. Glove box. 4 minutes. Done. Toyota engineers designed your car's HVAC system to operate at a specific airflow volume. They got that number right. The filter is the only thing standing between that engineered performance and the hot, stale air you have been accepting as normal. Restore the airflow. Feel what your AC was designed to feel like. Subscribe and share this with every Toyota and Honda owner you know, because next week we are covering the $3 compound that prevents evaporator mold permanently, and that video is going to make this one look like an introduction. If you want the full filter compatibility list, every part number, every vehicle, and the complete step-by-step guide with photos, it is in the description. Free, no sign up, just click. You now know what the dealer knows. Use it.